I'm joined by Mattias Lundberg from the Solutions for Youth Employment Coalition, a group that works with public and private sectors worldwide. He's also a senior economist for the World Bank. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So which countries and regions around the world are best for young people looking for jobs, and which countries are the worst?
Well, let me give you a little bit of the big picture. There are 1.2 billion young people between 15 and 24 in the world. Most of them are working or in secure employment. So in some sense, the story is really, really good. But that still leaves 500 million young people who are in insecure employment or unemployed. Now, in sub-Saharan Africa, unemployment isn't the problem. Underemployment is. People are working, they're just not earning very much money. They're not in productive employment. In other regions, the Middle East, for instance, unemployment is an issue. Among wealthier countries, the OECD, even in the context of the current crisis, things look pretty good for young people.
Things look pretty good, but not great. There's still a lot of young people living with their parents after college. For the countries that have a better atmosphere for employing this age group, what are they doing right?
Well, they're identifying and they're solving the problems facing young people. Some of these were in the story that you just aired. The soft skills, what are called the transversal skills that young people can take from one job to another. Some are identifying and solving the constraints on the demand side, on encouraging firms to invest in job creation and growing the pie, making more opportunities more available to a larger number of young people from across the income distribution.
What is a college degree worth nowadays? That seems to be a big issue for young people. They can't find a job. They maybe go back and get a master's degree or even higher. Yeah. Is a degree worth anything now? A
degree is still worth something, probably less than it was 20 years ago or when I was coming out of college. Excuse me, I think it still makes sense to have a degree. If you have a degree, you are more likely to earn more money, you're more likely to get a job more quickly, and your lifetime income is certainly higher than it is if you don't have a degree. Now, that's certainly the case in the OECD countries, in the wealthier countries. In the rest of the world, it's still an open question. It still makes sense to get a degree, but it may not be the ticket for all young people to find productive employment.
But people are also getting a degree and paying for it for years. Sure. The cost of a degree is much more. What about learning a trade or a skill? Maybe 30 years ago, that was a thing to do for kids who couldn't afford to go to college or couldn't get into college. What about that segment of the population?
There's a lot of talk about what's called the jobs mismatch or skills mismatch, that people come out of education and they have a degree or they have some training, but there aren't any jobs available for people with those skills. So there's clearly a problem there in that the training that young people are choosing to take at university, there aren't jobs available for them. So clearly there needs to be some thinking about how to match the skills that young people have with the skills that employers are demanding.
I think the fear for a lot of parents out there who are thinking about sending their kids to college is that their child will not have as good of a life as they have had, or they fear that their child will not be able to earn as much as they did. So can you talk to that, and also long-term, the prospects for actually retiring?
Well, let me separate these two questions. I think the first one is a great concern primarily in wealthier countries. I think the competition for jobs globally has become much greater than it was a generation ago. Now, for the planet, I have to say, I think that's a great thing, right? It means that the job opportunities now are more widely available to more young people from around the world. Now, speaking as a parent in a developed country, it's a little tougher for my children than it was for my generation, right?
So what's the answer?
Well, the answer is to increase the number of opportunities available, broaden the opportunities to deal with the constraints that face young people as they're trying to enter the labor market and find productive employment, and also deal with the constraints that face firms when they want to grow, deal with the issues that young people face if they try to set up a business. Access to land, access to finance, all these things that young people have a very hard time obtaining when they're trying to set up a business. But I think overall for the planet and for growth in the future, I think it's a great thing. The increased competition is a very good thing.
Is there a government role here? Should governments around the world take more of an active part than they currently do? Or do you think young people just have to rely on their own and maybe start their own business?
Young people are enormously resilient and creative and clever. And they are able to find opportunities, make opportunities, take advantage of things in a way that's just breathtaking and very, very impressive. Clearly, there's a role for government. There are problems and constraints and market failures, to use the jargon, that face young people that older workers don't face, right? They may not have the skills, they don't have the contacts in the world of work, they may face discrimination, and clearly those are opportunities for the government, for us as a public, to step in and try to solve these problems.
All right, very optimistic. Mattias Lundberg, thank you so much for your perspective.